I spend every dawn talking to the dead. The prairie wind's my only answer. My boots leave two shallow furrows through the grass, always tracing the same route, barn to fence to sycamore tree, where Miriam lies. If you asked, I could show you. Every nick on her headstone, the way the lichen grows over her name, softer than the hands I once held. Folks in town whisper about me, say the old Hartley place is haunted, and maybe they're right. Only the ghosts don't do the haunting. I do. Today the sky's bruised and heavy, swollen with a storm that's been building for days. I kneel by her grave, run my thumb along the M in Miriam, and mumble the same words as always. I miss you. I'm sorry. Elijah would be 20 now, tall as you were kind. The ache never eases. I straighten, joints protesting, and let my eyes drift to the empty space beside her marker. Meant for me, though I haven't earned the rest. I return to the ranch, each board and nail warped with neglect. The paint on the porch peels away and strips. The wind rattles a shutter loose. I don't mind the decay. It matches the inside of me. There's a rhythm in maintenance, but the only thing I've managed lately is making sure nothing grows wild enough to swallow her stone. The cattle are gone. The crops long since withered. Only the well out back keeps me tethered to this patch of earth. Inside, the house is dark and close. Miriam's apron hangs by the stove untouched. A cracked teacup sits on the table. Dust, pooled inside like gray snow. I keep the fire low, enough to keep the bones of the place from freezing through. Sometimes, if I close my eyes, I hear her humming. More often, I just hear the silence. Word gets around in these parts faster than a horse can run, and pity clings to a man like me. The storekeeper leaves flour by the door, but won't look me in the eye. The pastor stops by with pamphlets and prayers, never staying long enough for the tea to steep. They talk about me like I'm already halfway to the grave. Some say I lost my mind out here after Miriam and the boy passed, but they're wrong. I lost my heart. My mind's sharp enough to know it. Storm's coming. The wind howls through the chinks in the wall, rain beginning to spit sideways. I light a lamp and watch shadows crawl along the floorboards. The loneliness presses in, heavier than the sky outside, but I let it settle over me. It's all I have left. I make a pot of coffee, bitter as regret, and sit by the window, listening to the thunder roll closer. I could ride into town, join the men at the saloon, let their laughter and cheap whiskey drown the ache. But I don't. I stay. I endure. Every day is a choice to keep breathing, to walk the same path to Miriam's grave, to remember what was lost and accept what remains. I've woven myself into absence, become a fixture of it. The storm shakes the house and I let it. The world rages outside, but I stay silent, steadfast. There's no solace to be found beyond these walls, only memories and a steady patient waiting for something to change or for nothing to. The rain comes in hard, hammering the windows until the glass rattles. I sit hunched at the table, nursing my cup, watching the lamplight flicker across the warped floor. There's comfort in the routine, in the careful folding of grief into each hour. Wake, walk, tend Miriam's grave, retreat. I've made a fortress out of sorrow, the walls high and thick. When thunder cracks overhead, I flinch but don't move. Out here, you learn to let storms pass through you. I'm tracing a finger around the rim of my cup, half listening to the creak and sigh of the old place when the knock comes. Not a timid tap, a heavy, deliberate pounding. My hand twitches toward the rifle propped beside the door, instinctual as breathing. I've lived on the edge long enough to know that visitors in a storm seldom bring good news. Another knock, louder this time. The hairs on my arms stand up. I force myself to move slow, crossing the short distance from chair to door. My boots thump on the planks. For a moment, I picture a posse. Deputy come to drag me in for debts, or some half-drunk neighbor with a grudge and a pistol. I don't expect what I see when I ease the door open a cautious inch. 10 figures stand beneath the eaves, reins sluicing off broad shoulders and beaded braids. Apache. Their leader is tall and stern, rain streaming down his face, eyes sharp, but not cruel. He nods at me, his gaze steady as stone. Behind him, the others hold their ground, silent, proud, soaked to the bone but showing no weakness. I grip the rifle tighter, torn between fear and something else, something older than either of us. I know the stories men tell about savage raids, about blood and revenge, but none of that is in the faces before me. Only the hard fatigue of men who've ridden long and lost much. The leader steps forward, raises a hand in peace. "Storm?" he says in rough English, his voice low. "Need shelter. Only tonight." The words hang heavy in the air. A dozen thoughts race through me, risk, suspicion, the weight of old feuds and fresh wounds. But looking at them, I see the same weariness I carry, the same shadow in their eyes. Grief's a language that needs no translation. I step back, open the door wider, nodding once. "Come in," I say, my voice hoarse. "You're welcome here." They file in one by one, silent but for the drip of water and the creak of boots on wood. The leader, who I later learn is called Taza, pauses to meet my eyes, as if weighing the measure of my soul. For a moment, I wonder if Miriam would approve. Then I realize I already know the answer. Inside, the warmth of the hearth draws them, close. The Apaches gather near the stove, careful not to touch anything, their respect palpable. I see in their faces the same loss I see in mine. One of them, younger than the rest, coughs into his fist, blood smearing his knuckles. My heart stutters. I offer what blankets I have, push the coffee pot toward them. Taza accepts, nodding gratitude with a gravity I feel in my bones. Outside, thunder shakes the earth. Inside, the house breathes with unfamiliar life. For the first time in years, I am not alone in my suffering. The wind and rain batter the walls, but something softer moves within. A trembling hope, or maybe just the old ache shifting into something new. The night stretches long, and though words are few, the room is full. My hands are empty. But for once, my heart feels less so. For a time, the only sound is rain against the roof and the low murmur of men shaking off the cold. The Apaches move quietly, folding into the corners of my house like shadows, wary but calm. Taza sits nearest the fire, his back ramrod straight, scanning every angle of the room, but it's the young one, thin and pale, who draws my eye. His coughing is wet and ragged, his face gaunt, eyes shining with fever. I fetch the last of my clean rags and the dregs of a dwindling medicine bottle, then kneel beside him, every motion cautious. He doesn't flinch, only looks at me, unblinking. Up close, I see the dried blood on his shirt, the tremor in his hands. I remember Elijah's final weeks, how I'd held a basin under his chin and whispered promises I couldn't keep. That helplessness surges up, raw as an open wound. My fingers shake as I press the rag to the boy's lips. "Rest easy," I mutter, unsure if he understands. "You're safe here." The others watch me, their faces unreadable. I sense their distrust, the barrier of language and loss, but I press on. I spoon a thin broth into the sick boy's mouth. He swallows, without. Protest, exhaustion etched deep. When I offer water, he cups my hand with surprising gentleness, then reaches into his coat and presses something into my palm. It's a carved stone bird, no bigger than a robin's egg, smooth and heavy with meaning. He says nothing, but his eyes are pleading, vulnerable in a way that breaks me open. I turn the bird over, tracing its lines. Elijah had whittled birds too when his strength allowed. Gave one to his mother the week before the fever took him. The connection cuts me deeper than I'm ready for. I clear my throat, blinking back. Tears and nod. "Thank you, son," I say, my voice thick. I pass the bird to the mantel, setting it beside Miriam's faded photograph. The gesture draws soft murmurs from the Apaches, approval, perhaps, or relief. I take it as a blessing. Before long, the men settle in, spreading their blankets on the floor, sharing what food they have: dried corn, a bit of jerky, a pouch of sweet herbs that scent the room. I add what little I can: half a loaf of stale bread, the last jar of beans. We eat together in silence, trading glances, sharing more in gestures than in words. The house feels changed, less like a tomb. The firelight catches on the bird, casting a tiny shadow that dances on the wall. For the first time in years, warmth seeps past my skin and into the hollow places. Later, Taza approaches, his expression solemn. "Nantan," he says, laying a hand on the sick boy's shoulder. "Good heart." I nod, understanding what he means, though the words are simple. Grief doesn't care about boundaries. It finds its own kin. That night, as I drift toward sleep, I listen to the rain and the soft breaths of my guests. My loneliness is still there, but it's quieter, gentled by the presence of others who know what it is to lose everything and keep moving forward. Dawn peels back the night, pale and shivering. My house, which spent so many years echoing with nothing but my footsteps, is now full of subtle sound. Boots scuffing floorboards, the scrape of a pot on the stove, the low hum of voices in a language I don't know but feel all the same. The storm has passed, leaving the world washed and raw. The Apaches move with practiced efficiency, mending a broken hinge on my barn door, stacking wood near the stoop, tending the fire as if they've always belonged here. I find myself hovering on the edge of it all, uncertain how to fit into this strange, sudden community. When Taza nods to me over the steam of his coffee, I nod back, unsure what rules we're following, but grateful for them just the same. Nantan, the sick boy, is propped by the hearth, a blanket draped over his shoulders. Each time he coughs, the others pause, worry clouding their faces. I kneel beside him, feel his forehead, reassure myself he's still warm but breathing easier. I offer him a crust of bread. He accepts it, careful and dignified, like a man twice his age. There's a fragile peace in the air, until a hard rapping at the door shatters it. I freeze, heart pounding, then rise slow, catching Taza's eye. He gestures for his men to stay put. I crack open the door to find Deputy Jed Cobb on my porch, hat low against the morning chill, badge gleaming like a warning. His eyes flick past me, searching the gloom within. "Morning, Silas," he says, drawing out the syllables. "Heard you might have company out here." My grip on the door tightens. "Had a storm. No man's turned away from my fire and weather." Like that. Jed's lips twitch, part sneer, part smile. "Funny. Don't recall you being so hospitable since Miriam passed." He leans forward, dropping his voice. "These are Apaches, Hartley. You know what people say, what they've done." Anger flares up, sharp and hot. I square my shoulders. "They're guests. That's all you need to know." He steps closer, hand resting on the butt of his pistol. "Some in town won't see it that way. You're risking a lot. Your safety, your place here." He spits in the dirt, a sharp, mean gesture. "Don't make trouble for yourself." Behind. "Me?" Taza rises, silent but imposing. Jed's eyes flicker, calculating, before he retreats a step. "We'll be watching, Silas. Don't think you can hide behind kindness forever." He turns and strides off, leaving tension curling in his wake. I shut the door with shaking hands. Taza's gaze lingers on me, unreadable. The others resume their chores, but the atmosphere has shifted, edged now with unease. For a long while, I stand in the doorway, watching Jed's figure shrink along the muddy track toward town. I know what's coming. In these parts, fear breeds. Quick and loyalty's measured in blood. But I won't betray the men in my house. I'd sooner be cast out myself. I breathe in the scent of wood smoke and wet earth, and for the first time in years I feel the boundaries of my old life cracking, letting in something braver and more uncertain than grief. The day drags by, heavy with a new, unsettled quiet. The Apaches keep close to the house, never straying far. I sense them watching me, wondering if my resolve will hold. I chop wood with more force than needed, sweat running down my back despite the morning chill. It's easier than thinking about what Jed's visit means, what rumors are already snaking their way through town. Near noon, a figure approaches on foot. Reverend Grady, gray-bearded and stoop-shouldered, carrying a sack over one arm. He pauses at the gate, eyes searching the yard, cautious but unafraid. I wave him in, unsure if I feel relief or dread. The Apaches regard him in silence as he steps onto the porch. "Silas," Grady says, voice soft but firm. He offers me the sack. "Flour. My wife sent it." I take it, surprised by the simple kindness. For a moment, I almost believe nothing's changed. We sit on the porch, knees nearly touching, as the Apaches work quietly in the yard. Grady glances their way, then turns to me. "Heard about your company," he says, "and about Jed's visit." He keeps his tone gentle, but the weight of his words presses down hard. People are afraid. Some lost kin in the old raids, others just need a reason to be angry. Jed's stirring them up, says you're inviting trouble. I meet his gaze, stubborn. They needed shelter, that's all. He sighs, rubbing a weathered hand over his jaw. It's not that simple. This town's always looking for someone to blame. And Jed, he'll come back, Silas. Next time it won't be to talk. I swallow, anger and fear warring in my chest. Grady sees it, lays a hand on my shoulder. "You've been alone too long, friend. I remember you and Miriam, the way you looked out for folks. Some of us still remember that." His voice drops lower, earnest. "Just be careful. Don't count on mercy if things turn ugly." The porch boards creak as I shift my weight, uncertainty gnawing at me. I look past Grady, watch Nantan and Taza splitting logs together, the rhythm of their work easy and familiar. The young Apache pauses, winded, and Taza steadies him. There's a gentleness there that the world refuses to see. Grady squeezes my arm, then stands. "Town's changing, Silas. Decide what you want to stand for before they force your hand." He leaves the way he came, walking slow, hat in hand. Inside, I divide the flour between my guests, feeling the faintest echo of fellowship. As the sun dips, Taza nods in gratitude. Nantan presses the stone bird into my hand again, as if to anchor me to something better. Night settles, and for the first time in years, I sense a flicker of belonging, a small, stubborn fire inside that refuses to go out. Let the town talk. Let Jed come. I won't run. I won't beg. I'll stand by those who shared my roof and my sorrow, even if it costs me the last scraps of the life I once knew. The morning brings no peace. Every movement outside feels watched, every creak of the gate a warning. I chop wood, the axe splitting. Logs in sharp, angry bursts, but it doesn't quiet my mind. The Apaches move with a hush, gathering water, tending the sick boy, eyes ever on the horizon. Even Taza's calm is tinged with the tension of a man who knows the world can change with a single gunshot. It doesn't take long before the sound of horses drifts through the brittle air. Hoofbeats, then men's voices, ugly with drink and bravado. I step onto the porch, rifle in hand, and see Jed Cobb again, this time flanked by a half-dozen townsmen, all armed and jumpy. Their faces are familiar, but there's a hardness in their eyes I haven't seen before. Jed grins like a man itching for a fight. "Morning, Silas. Came to see if our suspicions were true." His gaze flicks past me into the shadows of my house. You're harboring hostiles. I plant my boots firm on the boards. These men are guests. Storm's over, but they're not leaving till the sick boy can travel. That's all there is to it. Jed's posse fans out in the yard. You think you're above the rest of us? Harboring the enemy? Town's not safe with redskins this close. One of the men spits in the dirt. Another cocks his rifle. The sound crisp as breaking bones. Behind me, the Apaches gather at the doorway, Taza tall and unbowed. His hand is empty, but his presence is a wall. We do not want blood, he says, slow and clear, his English thick but certain. We leave soon. Sick one needs rest. Jed sneers. You hear that, boys? They want peace. How many graves have we dug because of peace? He waves his gun in the air, showy and reckless. The men behind him mutter and shift, tension, crackling. My heart thuds like thunder. The memory of Elijah's fever, Miriam's prayers, the sound of the wind howling through an empty house. All of it sharpens me, forges my fear into steel. I level my rifle not at Jed, but in the air. First man fires gets buried on this land. I swear it. For a heartbeat, no one moves. The air is so thick you could cut it. The Apaches stand behind me. Not a word or gesture wasted. I realize then that we're not just holding ground. We're holding each other up, me, them, all of us, battered by things the world will never understand. Jed spits, eyes flashing with rage. You'll regret this, Hartley. Town won't forget. They back away, slow and sullen, the threat unfinished. I watch until they disappear down the lane, the storm they promised still brewing in their wake. Inside, I bolt the door. Taza bows his head in gratitude. Nantan offers the stone bird for comfort. The ranch feels like a fortress, not of wood and stone, but of choice. Our shared refusal to give in to fear. Night falls, uneasy and brittle. Every shadow looks like a man with a torch, but none of us flinch. We've chosen our side. Darkness falls thick and uneasy, broken only by the flicker of lanterns and the tense, restless shifting of bodies on the floor. I pace the front room, rifle cradled against my chest, listening for every sound, hooves, voices, the scrape of boots in the dirt. The Apaches are silent, faces drawn in the lamplight. Nantan coughs, a raw rattling sound. Taza checks the window, jaw clenched. The sense of waiting, of being tested, settles like another weight on my shoulders. Near midnight, the distant bark of dogs is swallowed by a deeper quiet. Then a shout splits the darkness, followed by the ugly roar of men. I see them through. The glass, a knot of townsfolk, maybe 20 strong, led by Jed. They come with torches, rifles, the glow of fire flickering across hungry, angry faces. Fear sharpens everything. I can taste it in my mouth, metallic and bitter. Still, I step outside, shutting the door behind me. The Apaches fan out inside, covering the windows, bracing the doors. Jed stands at the head of the mob, torch raised. "Last chance, Hartley," he hollers. "Send 'em out or we'll burn you all." My hands tremble, but I keep my voice steady. "This land's mine. You want trouble? You bring it here." A bottle crashes against the barn, flames licking up dry wood. The fire catches fast, painting the night with a sick, orange light. I raise my rifle and fire a warning shot, the sound echoing across the plains. The mob hesitates, eyes wide, hearts pounding. The Apaches appear behind me, silent, unyielding, weapons in hand but held low. Taza's presence is calm, a statement of strength without malice. Jed shouts, "Take 'em!" and chaos erupts. Shots crack the air. I fire again, aiming, wide, making my point. Taza and his men step out holding ground but never pressing the attack. They move with discipline, defensive, not murderous, wounding, disarming, never killing. The mob's courage crumbles fast in the face of men who refuse to break. A stone sails through a window. I duck, glass showering over my head. Somewhere, Nantan cries out, but when I turn, he's up, pressing himself to the wall, defiant. The barn burns bright, but the house stands, scarred but unbroken. By the time the fighting stutters out, men are limping away, clutching arms, muttering curses. Jed is last to go, glaring at me, hate sharp in his eyes. We do not chase them. We do not gloat. The Apaches tend their wounded. I kneel beside Nantan, pressing the stone bird into his hand, promising in my own silent way that he's safe as long as I'm breathing. When dawn creeps in, smoke drifts across the fields, the barn a blackened skeleton. But the house is still standing, filled with people I would never have called my own, yet now cannot imagine losing. By sunrise, the ranch is stripped bare, charred wood smolders in the yard, and the air tastes of ash and sweat. My hands shake as I pump water, dousing what's left of the barn. The Apaches move quietly, tending wounds, checking their horses, gathering their scant belongings. None of us speak of the night, but the memory hangs heavy, etched in bruises and soot. Taza finds me by the well, his presence a calm in the lingering storm. He holds out a small bundle, unwrapping it to reveal a carving. Hawk wings flared, beak sharp, the grain of the wood polished by hours of care. He presses it into my palm, his voice low but certain. For you, strong spirit, remember. I nod, words lodged in my throat. The weight of what we survived and what we lost settles in my chest, raw but not crushing. Inside, Nantan leans against the hearth, the fever faded, face flushed with stubborn life. He grins at me, gap-toothed and boyish, nothing like the ghost he'd been. He presses the stone bird into my hand one last time, closing my fingers around it with a strength that startles me. It's not a goodbye. It's a promise of hope, of kinship beyond blood and language. We gather in the yard as the sun breaks the horizon, gold spilling across battered ground. The Apaches mount up, each one offering a nod or a quiet word, respect earned, not demanded. Taza lingers, his eyes searching mine. You have family here, he says, gesturing at his men, at me, at the broken ranch that now feels less empty. The moment is thick with feeling I can't name. I watch them ride out, their silhouettes sharp against the morning light. My heart aches, but it's a different ache, a fuller, richer pain that reminds me I'm still alive. When the dust settles, I stand alone in the wreckage, the hawk carving warm in my hand. The ranch is wounded but not lost. The house bears scars but still stands. I walk through the rooms, sunlight spilling over the photographs, the stone bird on the mantel, the apron by the stove. The silence is different now. Not a void, but a space waiting to be filled. Later, neighbors will come, some bringing condemnation, others bringing help. Jed's hate will simmer, but he won't return. The town's talk will fade, replaced by stories of a widower who sheltered his enemies, who found family where there was none. I tend Miriam's grave at dusk, lay the hawk beside her stone, and speak to her not as a man broken, but as a man changed. Grief is still there, but so is something new, possibility, and the knowledge that the world, for all its cruelty, can still surprise you with mercy. I keep my door unlocked now. Let the haunted, the weary, the lost find their way here. My house stands as a welcome, proof that even on the edge of the world, a wounded soul can choose healing, can become someone else's shelter from the storm.